get an increase in revenues, to not have tax increases, what are you doing to create manufacturing jobs, not meaningless service industry jobs? This was signed by Dennis.
Wait, okay, so give me that again. You're saying if...
What is being done basically to create manufacturing jobs and not service jobs without raising taxes?
But I thought you said something about taxes earlier.
Yeah, the first is with the need to get an increase in revenues, to not have tax increases.
Okay, I got it. We now have in America the highest corporate tax rate in the world. Highest corporate tax rate. So when we're competing against Ireland, Ireland has a 15% tax rate. We're at 35%. We're at a disadvantage. That's one, is watching our corporate rate. And I think, to his credit, and listen, I didn't vote for our president, okay? But he's our president. And if sometimes he's done some things right. And when he does, I'll say it. And in this one, he's done it right. He's saying himself, he's finally come to the conclusion that America can't continue to grow if we have the highest corporate rate in the world. So he is working with us in the House to find ways that we can lower that tax rate, to get it down to 25%. 25% is the average of the industrialized nations. To think about right off the top, we're 10 points higher than any other person that we're competing with. So you do that. You stop the spending. So the corporations all across America are going to know they're not facing higher taxes. They can have confidence. We've got to instill people the confidence of stability. Right now, as long as you have uncertainty, any of us, all of you businessmen, you know, if there's uncertainty, you step back and you wait for things to settle down a little bit. And that's what we're trying to do in Congress right now. We're trying to send messages. It's going to take a long way, but we're going to cut spending. We're going to reduce the obligation. People think we're going to have higher taxes. We're trying to tell them, don't think it. It's not going to happen. Are we getting close to loopholes? Absolutely. Some of those loopholes are just, it's tough. Some things we talked about over here with the subsidies. Do you know, this is an aside, one of the subsidies we're paying for? I love renewable energy, and I'll support it to the extent that we can. But wind energy, we pay as US taxpayers, we pay $24 for every kilowatt hour that's produced with wind energy. $24 for kilowatt hour. But yet, you can turn on your lights you get from the coal company, and it might cost you 7 to 10 cents. But we pay people that use wind power $24 a kilowatt hour. Folks, I know we need to be moving on this, but look back in history and find out how many of, when we invented the automobile, or when Ensler and all that, Ford, all that, they didn't get subsidies to do this. I think we've got to stop subsidizing some of these industries and bring it back.
What is being done by Congress to prevent presidents from having so many czars on the payroll not authorized by the people or the representation? Czars, that the president has.
Czars?
Cut his budget.
Unfortunately, Bush did it too. One of the things, it is bipartisan, but it's gotten out of hand now. They found a way to get around Congress, and they can do this. I wish I knew the numbers, but we're working on that. We're trying to find ways to do that. But under the Bush administration, they had it. Reagan, they've had it for years, but it's really exploded now because they find out we don't have to get congressional approval. They're ignoring the Constitution. They're finding ways of doing these things like recess appointments. I don't know if you're paying attention to what happened thus far in August. We've got Republicans over in Congress right now to make sure that we're still in session. They're holding sort of performance sessions so that there can't be recess appointments being made. We found a way. If that's what you want to play, we play our game too. So we got to prevent we think people ought to be held accountable so that they can answer the questions and find out where they're coming from before they hold those specific jobs. Yes, sir.
It says, thank you for being a steadfast conservative adult in Washington. Now cut more.
Question?
As we said earlier, we're going to cut as much as the Senate's going to allow us to, because I think you can see there, we know it, and it's not going to be easy. I don't want to diminish that. It's going to be difficult because we're going to try a balancing act of doing some things here with a whole variety of programs to make sure we don't hurt people. But we have to make some reductions in spending, and we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep sending messages over to the Senate. And always say, folks, you can hold them accountable. We know who our people are. Just hold them accountable. If they're not doing it, then we have a chance of dealing with it next year in 2012.
With gasoline being around $4 a gallon, why are we not doing more or all we can to put in natural gas filling stations when the GGE equivalent for natural gas is approximately $1.70 a gallon?
Someone really knows your stuff here. That's an excellent observation with it. I thought it was something closer to $2, but I heard they were from $1.50 to $2 using natural gas. We met with some folks over there, and they're now going to start cleaning up. Remember, maybe 20 years ago there was an effort. Remember that around town? Some public, I think it may have been the school board. Maybe they had a truck or something that was natural gas. But they're trying that again across this country. Chesapeake's big into it. Dominion's going to be big into it. There are numbers of them that are going to try to find ways to get that back again. And one of the problems that has been associated with it that made me nervous about some has been they want a subsidy for some of the research and startup. So we're a little nervous about that. We got to find ways to deal with it because I don't want to subsidize another industry. But if those numbers are correct, at $2, the equivalent of $2 a gallon, folks, we can get ourselves off that oil coming in from Saudi Arabia real quickly and start a whole movement. And what I like about it, we met with them, was the future for West Virginia. Because we're sitting on the Marcellus Shale. And for those of you that know anything about underneath the Marcellus Shale is the Utica Shale. And the Utica Shale is even larger than the Marcellus. We're in a gold mine here if we can just do it right. And not disturb people with water. We've got to find ways to drill. We've got to make sure that our landowners are treated properly. We're not destroying the roads. We've got to do it in a very cautious way. But at the same time, if we can find ways of producing the natural gas vehicles, driven vehicles, we're going to be sitting here in a very enviable position in this country. And we're going to see people come back. Now, there's a secondary issue with it that we're working with. And we've had numbers of meetings with the manufacturers. The little engineering lesson, Mary's going to say, you talk too much. But the gas that we have in this area is what's called a wet gas. And so when it comes out of the ground, you got to separate it. You got to get that wet gas to the hydrocarbons. You get those hydrocarbons, that's the gold. That's what they've come up with. Scalise has come up to my office from Louisiana. And he says to me, he said, send that down to us in Louisiana. We'll take care of it over there. You don't have to be bothered with it in West Virginia. Because they know there are thousands of jobs can be generated from the hydrocarbons from this gas. Thousands of jobs. So that's why watching the news is happening down Natrip between Dominion and PPG. We keep our fingers crossed that that deal goes through. But if that can happen, we're going to see thousands of jobs, because once they separate it, then you get ethylene, you get other byproducts that you can use for other things in the plastic industry. We can have propane, butane, all of the products are all coming from this wet portion of the gas. So there's more to this than just gas coming out that we're burning in our homes. It has a secondary job downstream that we could have an explosion of jobs here in this valley if we can get it out of the ground properly. Yes, sir.
What are our chances of a balanced budget amendment?
In the House, 100%. In the Senate, we fell short. We just passed a second bill over there to them. It was called Cut, Cap, and Balance. And I think it was, I don't remember the number. What was it? Do you remember what the final numbers were? I think it was 47 to 53 or something like that. No, I don't think it's on one of our slides. But we need 60 votes. We don't have 60 votes yet. Okay, 46 to 54. We need 14 more votes. 14 more votes, get done, goes to the American public. I can only tell you what my gut's telling me. We give it to the American public, they'll adopt it. But we got to get it to the American public. I'm not afraid of America. If they want to say no, they say no. But I don't have any problem with the way they get their input. So, chances, 100% in the House. After 2012, it could be maybe 100% in the Senate.
Another part is, and also defunding Planned Parenthood, and that was signed by Diane.
Yeah, again, we passed that out of the House, and it went over to the Senate and died. I think we're going to have to wait till 2012 until that. We're not going to be able to swing enough votes over in the Senate to do that until there's more of a shift in the makeup of the people in the Senate. But it's a very sensitive issue, and how we deal with that matter, because the Planned Parenthood, there are some very good programs they do, but there are some things that there are real issues, real concerns, and I don't want to risk putting money into a program